Hello YouTube and hello viewers, and welcome back to yet another episode of creating our community project. It's been a reasonable journey so far, hasn't been very complex. I know a few people have been dropping me messages in regards to things like their PHP scripts and stuff not working and databases and things like that. It does get a little bit confusing, but just drop me the messages and I'll try and help. I mean, I've helped a few people already, and yeah, I'll just keep trying if people are still having a few issues with getting the PHP scripts and stuff to work. So yeah, just drop me a PM and I'll try and work it out as quick as I can and try help you as quick as I can. So in today's session, we're moving into some more PHP script today. What we're going to look at in this session for the PHP script though is we're going to create pretty much the login section for the script. Because reason being is we've got our web system working where the user will be able to log in through the web system. However, we need to be able to get Unreal to communicate with our PHP script of some game info that we might need from that user. Now, what normally happens is that we'll send information together and basically it will pass it back to us as a JSON request, and we'll be able to see certain structures of what we want of information that will be returned back to the game itself. So where we left off last time, so if I just swap screens, again, thanks very much, guys. I mean, huge support. I mean, I'm over 600 subscribers now. I mean, Jesus, it's growing. But again, thank you very much for that. And thanks very much for the person that donated to the channel. I greatly appreciated your name. Actually, it's been updated because you've already donated before and you donated some more. So I have updated that, and thank you very much for that. So where we last left off is we created our UI pretty much for our username and password. Now, we're not going to touch this today. We'll carry on working on Unreal in the next session, but what we need to get open today is our Notepad++ today. And basically, we're going to write some PHP script for us, so we'll be able to grab information in regards to the user. Now, ignore all this because this is all your pages, so let me actually close all these down so we don't see them. I'll keep this one open because some people are having a few issues with this one, so I'll just keep that open for now. So what we need to do is we need to create a new document. And we're just going to save this. We're going to go File, Save As. Now make sure you save it into your htdocs. And we're going to call this, we could call it game info, because what we're going to do is we're going to use just this PHP script to save everything that we require for game information. So a lot of people have been asking for things like inventory systems and all that sort of jazz. We'll write some code into here to grab all that information. Obviously, we do login systems, and then also we want to grab information from the user. There's a lot of things we're going to put into this PHP script, but we're going to do it chunk by chunk, so that way we don't get so confused and you can understand how the chunks are working. So it does make a little bit of sense to you. So just save that. Obviously, save it first as a PHP so we can get the colors, and we can start working. So what we need to do is obviously open up our PHP tags. Now, I'm decided to do this again because giving you the code didn't really help a few of you. So I'm going to do it all from scratch, so at least you can understand what each code means and makes a little bit of sense to you. So obviously open and close the PHP script. And what we want to do is we want to include our database. So obviously we need to have our database name. So db connect, db connect, so db connect.php. And then obviously we need to make sure that we close that off. So basically this will allow us to connect to our database. So basically this script here. So very important that we do have that. Let's say, for example, you've put your database information into another page. You might need to change this string. But if it's all in the same file location, we don't need to change this at all. So we can just leave it as that. So don't worry about that. So what we need to do is our first sort of function we're going to do for our PHP script is basically, we're going to tell Unreal we want to go into a certain function. The function name is something, and then basically just return us with some information that we need. Okay, and the very first one we're going to do, so if you want to put some forward slashes, these are just comments. So we're going to, first function, remember this has nothing to do with what we're doing. So first function to get user data for login. Okay. So we just want to grab a bit of information about the user so we can actually see that working. All right, so remember, we're not using Unreal now, but we're just writing some PHP. So what we need to do is we're going to say if. So this is going to be an if statement. And basically, we're just going to put some brackets. Okay. And what we want to do is we want to get the user information. So we're going to get, works with capitals, so get, actually it needs to be dollar, sorry, my microphone's too close to my face. So it's dollar underscore get, right? So we want to get some information. We're going to use square brackets. Okay, now this is basically going to be, you could call this a function name, or a part of an array of a function. So we're going to actually call this, I don't know, let's just call it stuff. All right, because there's going to be quite a few different things that we're going to refer to stuff. So we're just going to call this one stuff for now. And then we're going to say equals, and then this is the important one. So obviously we're going to call the stuff, and then it needs to represent something we want to gain access to. And in this case, we want the login information. So you just type in login, make sure you put the quotations there, and then that's pretty much the if statements. And then we open up the curly brackets, and then we're going to do some code inside the curly bracket. So the very first thing we need to do is connect to our database. So we're going to use dollar, and it's going to be my SQLi. Okay, so my SQLi, it's more security with my SQLi, equals new, and then it's going to be my SQLi again. All right, so this is basically just a new connection, and we want to connect to all our database information. So if you want to, you can quite easily just jump into here and copy all this information from our DB sections. We're just going to paste that into there. It just saves me rewriting it over and over again. And remember, semicolon at the end. So basically, this is just making a connection to my database. So the host being localhost, then root, then YouTube, and then whatever the database name is called. Okay. We could, if we wanted to, we could put a connection error in there. So we can actually just copy this if we wanted to, just to make sure that for testing purposes, if there is any errors, we can grab that error if needs be. But again, it's not really necessary. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. So it's not much of an issue. Okay, so what we want to grab is we're going to make a variable, and the variable is going to hold the username. So we're going to dollar username. So this is the username that the user is going to log in with, but we want to get it from Unreal. So again, we're going to have that dollar underscore. So dollar underscore get, right? So we're going to get, and we want to get, now this is important as well. We need to make sure we name this correctly. So we're going to name it user. We could call it username, you could call it whatever, but let's just keep it nice and short for the series. So we're going to obviously close that off. And then we can just quite easily just copy this instead of writing over and over again. And obviously we need to get hold of the password. All right, so we're going to get hold of the password. Obviously this is not going to be called user. We're going to call this one password. Okay, so we're going to grab hold of the username and then the password. Okay. So basically when the user puts their information into Unreal, i.e. their username and password, so in this section here, once we hit this button here, it's then going to send it to this page here, and it's going to store the username and password into that section. Okay. Then basically what we want to get back is some information back from the database. So again, there's a lot of variables. We're going to call this query. So basically we want to query the database. And now this is going to be pretty long, so hopefully you can keep up with me. So you're going to obviously put little quotation marks in there. Right, so we're just going to put some quotation into that section there. And we need to type in a little bit of a MySQL statement. So we're going to say select, make sure it's all capital letters. So select. We want the username. So don't forget, these are the columns that you've got inside your database. So if you've named them different, make sure you name them correctly. So username, we want the password. So we definitely want that one. We want the reg key, so the key that they've got. That's really important because we're going to say, well, do they have a reg key so they haven't just made an account and they can just play the game. So this is for security reasons. And also we want to find out if they ban. So if they are banned, don't let them log in, pretty much. So those are the stuff that we require. You can get some more if you want to. It's entirely up to you. And then we want to get it from, and this is basically where do we want to get all the information from, and that's the table name, and we call the table users. Right? You might have called your table something different. And basically what do we want to compare against is where So basically it's saying, what do we want to look at? And it's pretty self-explanatory. We want the username. Okay, so the username. So this username here, we want it to equal, right? So the username, we want it to equal. Now, this time it's not double quotes, it's a single quotation. So single quotes. And we want to have $username. So let's just copy that. Can't be bothered typing, and paste it into there. All right. And also we want to make sure that the password is equal to, so the password is equal to, and exactly the same thing again, single quotes, and we want to make sure that it is equal to this password here. Okay, obviously finish that off. So we double quotes, single, 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 just make sure everything's correct, and finish off with a semicolon. So basically that's looking through the database. It's going to look in all the columns, username, password, reg key, and band, from the table called users, and we need to make sure that the username and the password is the same. So it won't double up on anyone's information. Okay. So what we need to do next is we're going to write a simple if, well, I would say it's simple, but we need to write a statement in our if statement. So we're going to say if, and we're going to have $stmt for statement, okay, is equal to, and again we go $, and we want it to be MySQL I. Now remember MySQL I is here, so we're making a connection, okay, to, and then we want to prepare, right, so we want to prepare the query. So this query here. Now it sounds a bit confusing, but basically we're just getting the connection to get ready for this query here. Okay, then we open up our curly brackets, and now this is where the fun bit starts. So this is what's going to return back our JSON request. So we're going to have $stmt for our statement, okay, is going to execute. I hope I spelled that correct. Execute. I'm going to open and close brackets and then semicolon. So we're going to execute this. So we want that to run. And then what we want to do is we want to bind our information. So we want to bind this information here into variables. So it's just a little bit more easier for us to use if we turn them all into variables instead of writing them over and over again. So we're going to go stmt again for obviously this, what we're working on. So stmt, our statement. And we want to bind, so bind, underscore, so bind a result. So if there are any results, we want to bind some information to some variables we're going to create. And those what we're going to create are going to be $username, because obviously we've got that already, so the $username. Then we're going to have $password, because we've already got that one. And then what we could also have then is we're going to have $reg key. Right? So we're going to have $reg key for this one. Okay, so reg key. And then we're going to have $band. All right, so we just assigning each one of these to a variable. So basically it'll run the report through these. If any of these match, then fill in these variables with that information. I'm going to close it off with a semicolon. So basically, once it's got that, we need to run a while statement. So this is going to keep looping, and it's going to give us a result if it hits 1, at least, hopefully. So while, again, brackets, $, as you know, stmt, okay, is going to then fetch all our results. So it's going to fetch this information. So it's going to go fetch it. And we need to put brackets in here before I forget. And then basically we start our little curly bracket stuff again. And basically what we're going to do here is we're going to echo out some statements for our JSON request. We're going to say echo, right? So we're going to echo, and we want to echo, let's put a space, a curly bracket. So we want to echo that first. Very important that we put that in. And so echo that. Then we're going to echo another statement. So we're going to echo, and this time we're going to echo, what could we say? Let's put that in brackets. So basically we want to say, have we managed to, is there a result? So we could say result, And then we could say, well, if it was good, we can have success. Actually, let's keep it all lowercase just for sometimes what the heck, Wayne, why can't you spell success? Just like that. Okay. Then we want to put a little comma. So a little comma there. So a little comma. And then what we then require is, obviously we need to close that off with one of those. Okay, so I'm going to close that off. And then we want to echo our next one. So what we want to have is the reg key. So what does that equal? So the reg key, because we want to print this through to the user. So the reg key. And that's going to be, if we put into quotes, so there's our quotes and then our single quote. So make sure we put our single quotes in there. And I'm going to show you something new, and that's called what they call a concatenation string. So you put a little full stop there. So just make sure it's just after oh no, wrong place. After the single one. So make sure it's after the single one. And basically we're going to say, well, if that's the case, we want to concatenate this reg key. So we're going to copy that and paste that after the concatenation. So after that dot. All right, so dot. And then we're going to put another full stop just after that reg key. So another full stop just there. And then obviously we'll end it off with a single, then a double. Then we can just put a comma and then that. All right, to finish that off. Okay. And then basically let's just copy this line because we wanted the reg key. Now what we need after that is we need to have our band. So let's have a look at band. And then basically we want this variable, where it's called $band. I'm just going to put that into that section just there. So $band. And then basically all this is doing really is just giving us a string of information that we're going to pull through. And I'll show you exactly what I mean in a second. So we're going to echo. And then we just need to echo off, because we made this curly bracket, we just need to finish off that curly bracket just there. Just like that. And then the rest is pretty straightforward. Obviously we've closed off that while statement there. So all we need to do now is underneath that. So once that's finished, all we're going to do is just close our $stmt. Okay, so stmt. We're going to say, all right, we're finished with you now, so we're going to close you up. All right, we're going to finish that off like that. Forgot to put brackets there. Okay, so we're going to close that one off. And then we need to obviously put a curly bracket to finish that one off. And then the last one that we need to have is, no, I didn't need to put a curly bracket there because there's one already here. Dope. Too many line spaces, Wayne. Too many line spaces. And then all we need to do after that is just underneath this curly bracket is we're just going to close our connection. So MySQL I, we're just going to do the same thing and close that one off as well, so it doesn't keep running in the background. Okay, so that's pretty much everything we required. Maybe let's just take out these spaces here so we keep those together. And I think that's everything that we need to have our PHP stuff all running. So let's just save that. And I think that's pretty much everything we require. Now you won't be able to run this because, I mean, you could if you understand how to run things through your browser, but really that's the PHP information that we need just for the login. What we'll then do after that, so if you want to put some green space here, is going to be the next function that we're going to use. So the next function we're going to call, and then obviously we can put some more spaces in there. So basically in our next few sessions, not straight away, but in the next few sessions, we'll start filling in another function. This one might be able to get all the user information, so how many wins and kills he's got and stuff like that. And then we'll keep making some more, for example, inventories, shops, and etc. That we need. So I think that's pretty much it. Let me just double check, because I'm sure I might have just made a small mistake here. So let me just open my recent one just to make sure I haven't made a mistake. Yeah, so I have made a wee bit of a mistake here. Mine's slightly different to yours. So we should have put, just double check. Where's it gone? Okay, I thought that was a bit strange how I didn't have everything there. So we need to have these in the beginning. So these in the beginning of those. Make sure they're there. And then make sure we close them off with these two. So that. So just close that off over here. Like that. I'll put this in the description below so you don't need to panic about not knowing on how to get this all correct. I was wondering why. Well, that's fine, I did that correct. And then I'll just copy these. So I will put it in the description below so you can just copy and paste the code. But I wanted to go through it so at least you'd understand everything that was written. I didn't want to just throw you into the deep end and hope for the best. Okay, so that's pretty much it that we require for that. A little bit confusing for some people that haven't really done this before, but it gives you a good idea of how the system's working. In our next session, what we'll look at is how do we create a game instance inside Unreal to control stuff, and then also we're going to get the login working so you can see that system working. And then after that video, in our next one, I'm going to leave you with a bit of homework to work on, and hopefully you guys can work it out. Again, thank you very much. Hopefully you enjoyed the session. Remember, the code will be down in the description below, so don't worry if you've made a mistake or you're finding it difficult. I will put it down below so you can just copy and paste it if you need. But don't forget, change things. For example, the query and things. If your table names, sorry, not your table, if your column names are different, please make sure you change them. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you enjoyed this session, remember to like. If you have not done so, subscribe already. And please make sure you share this with everyone else. Again, thank you very much. My name is Wayne, and I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.